The live and learn concept is certainly applicable to the wine industry. I personally love learning new things about wine. I think every single day there's something new about wine that I learn, and I love using my social media for sharing that information with you guys. So my Instagram page is full of useful information. I post polls and reels and stories pretty much on a daily basis to educate you guys about wine and share interesting little facts about wine that I learned myself. So if you're still not following me on Instagram, please take a moment and do. And then this channel as well is, of course, a great outlet for me to share all of the new information that I learn about wine with you guys. So I challenge you to watch through the end of this video and tell me if you indeed knew any of these facts that I'm about to share with you. Or am I going to blow your mind and perhaps surprise you with all of the 15 of them? Let's see. This video is about 15 facts that I bet you didn't know about wine. Jumping straight into fact number one, and that's that wine wasn't always stored in glass bottles. Before our glass bottles became standard, wine was stored in clay jars, it was stored in wooden barrels, and it was stored even in animal skins. Crazy, right? But it's only in the 17th century when the cork stoppers were introduced that the glass bottles became standard. So glass bottles are definitely not the oldest way of storing wine, and certainly not the only one out there. Fact number two that I bet you did know about wine is that the oldest wine bottle in the whole world is nearly 1600 years old. And that's the Speyer wine bottle, or Speyer if you pronounce it right, which is the wine bottle that was discovered in a Roman tomb in Germany, actually. And that bottle is dated 325 or 350 AD. So it's super, super old. Not only that bottle was found in that tomb among some other old Roman kitchen utensils and cutlery and all sorts of stuff, they actually kept it. So it's still in Speyer, Germany, and you can see that bottle. It's such an interesting little piece of history out there. So it still has wine on it, but then it's got this little piece of what looks like grease floating on top of it, almost making it look like kombucha. But what that is actually olive oil, because Romans back in the day used to use olive oil as a preservative in their wines. So it's a conversation for a different video for you guys, but just look it up. It's extremely interesting, and it still exists and is exhibited in Speyer, Germany, where you can actually see that bottle still available, but very unlikely drinkable. Fact number three that I bet you didn't know about wine is that wine actually tastes different depending on the type of a glass that you consume it out of. So this has to do with the shape of the glass and how the aromas hit your nose, how they're funneled into your nose, because that actually affects the way that the taste hits your palate as well. So depending on the glass shape, the same wine will taste different. And a great example of that is actually drinking a sparkling wine out of a flute or out of a coupe or out of a tulip glass, for instance. And there's plenty more other glasses out there that you can try. But even those three examples will make your sparkling wine or champagne taste very, very different. So remember that next time you drink a wine. The next fact about wine that I bet you didn't know is that both red and white wines can be made from the same grape. And that has to do with the fact that the color of the wine actually comes from the skins of the grapes. And our red wine is fermented with the skins on, whereas for the production of white wine, we remove the skins before that fermentation process begins. So a good example of this phenomenon is actually champagne and the production of champagne, because there are three main grape varietals that go into champagne, but one of them is a red grape varietal, so it's Pinot Noir. As you can see, our champagne is not a red wine. It's not even a rosé for that matter. So they remove skins from Pinot Noir grapes before they combine them with the other grape varietals in production of champagne. And that's how our champagne stays the color that it is, not rosé and not red. It's a fun phenomenon for you. The next fact about wine that I bet you didn't know is that champagne was actually an accident. Dom Pérignon, who is the famous monk credited with the invention of our champagne, spent years and years trying to eliminate the bubbles from champagne because at that time they were actually considered a flaw in wine production. So funny enough, now this is one of the most beautiful wines out there. Just to think of it being an accident all of a sudden. Wine fact number 6 is a very common misconception, and that is that wine's age doesn't always mean quality. So there are indeed some wines that gain some amazing quality with aging, but most wines that you see in stores are actually meant to be consumed within 1 to 2 years from its bottling. So it's only 1% of all wine in the world that's produced that's actually meant to be aged for decades and decades. So age of the wine doesn't always mean high quality of it. The next fact about wine that I bet you didn't know is that some wines are vegan while others aren't. And that has to do with the clarification of wine. So some wines can be clarified with animal-derived products like egg whites and gelatin or even fish bladder, while other wines are now using some alternative methods of clarification, such as clay, for instance. So some is vegan and some is not. Yuck. I didn't know fish had a bladder. Wine fact number 8 that I bet you didn't know is that the most expensive bottle of wine cost $558,000. A 1945 vintage of Romanée-Conti Burgundy was sold at an auction for $558,000, which is by far the most expensive bottle ever sold on the planet. So this has to do with a lot of things. So for those of you guys who know about Romanée-Conti, I mean, that is a very expensive producer to start with. They make very small batches of wine. So the pedigree of their wine, their rarity, the quality, everything generally makes that wine very expensive. Even for a 2010 vintage, those wines go for like $16,000 a bottle. So it's very common for this specific brand to be producing such high quality and high cost wines. But that specific one, the vintage 1945, has a lot to do with it. The quality of it and the rarity of it translates into a $558,000 price mark. Hey friends, if you've made it this far in my video, please make sure to give it a like and also subscribe to my channel. Help my channel grow, and I would love to see you back here again. The next wine fact that I bet you didn't know is that wine was once safer to drink than water. In medieval Europe, water was often contaminated, so wine and beer were much safer to drink than water at the time. Its alcohol actually killed the harmful bacteria, so it made it a much safer choice, and people saved water by drinking wine. The next wine fact that I bet you didn't know is that the word vintage doesn't mean old. So in wine terminology, the word vintage actually means the year that the grapes were harvested in, not how old that wine is, if that makes sense. And there's also such a thing as non-vintage wine, which basically means that the wine that you're looking at has been made with a blend of grapes from different years. So harvesting year is the vintage year. The next wine fact that I bet you didn't know is that there are over 10,000 grape varietals in the world. So from very common ones like Cabernet Sauvignon and Chardonnay to rare and indigenous grape varietals. But the variety is just absolutely astounding. And a lot of those grape varietals are very specific to the area where they're produced. The next fact that I bet you didn't know is that the smell of wine has over 200 compounds to it. So the smell of wine, the aroma or the nose, however you want to call it, of wine has over 200 chemical compounds to it that basically puts together the range of smells from berries to leather to tobacco and flowers, so all sorts of stuff, but it's over 200 chemical compounds that go into it. And speaking of those those compounds, fact number 13 that I bet you didn't know about wine is that swirling is all about science. So swirling of the wine actually aerates the wine, releasing those chemical compounds from the nose and the aromas, helping our wine to open up and really allowing us to smell more things. So it's not just for show, it's actually science. Swirl your wine. The next wine fact that I bet you didn't know about is that terroir actually does matter. Very commonly so, I hear that people think that terroir is actually soil, specifically earth only, whereas terroir is not only soil, it's climate and actually topography of the place as well, all combined. It's extremely important on top of that. So that's why the same grape can taste very differently depending on where it's grown. So our terroir definitely does matter. The last fact about wine that I bet you didn't know about is that ancient Egyptians also enjoyed wine. So all of the tombs, the ancient Egyptian tombs that were opened up revealed some wine jars in them. Not only that, the old Egyptian characters indicated that they enjoyed both red wines and white wines. Not only that, they also had labels, old labels with Egyptian characters that indicated the vintage years of those wines too. So crazy to think that, such old empires enjoyed the same drink that we're drinking nowadays. And these are all of the wine facts about wine that I bet you didn't know. So if you indeed did know about any of these or all of these, please let me know in a comment down below. Or if you know about any other mind-blowing facts regarding wine, please let us know in the comments down below as well. Make sure to subscribe, find me on Instagram, and until next time I see you, cheers everyone.